So, we went through the mass shooting, unfortunately. We went through Georgia. We went through Florida. I want to update you on our Flint reporting. We were just in Flint. You might have not seen it because YouTube, unfortunately, has been throttling this channel again. YouTube suddenly decides not to let people know when I'm live in certain ways. The views for the Flint videos were pretty low because most people probably didn't even get them in their feeds. So make sure when I'm not live, definitely go check out the videos we've done from Flint. We have some more that we're going to be showing you, publishing as the days go on. But Jen and I worked on a story very hard for the last few months. And I'm not going to get into the full explanation now. I will at a certain point. But if I'm keeping it real, that story was supposed to be published last week for Newsweek. For Newsweek magazine. That story was supposed to be published. We didn't want to mention where it was going to be because people, the state of Michigan and some other forces have tried to get the story killed several times. And the day before it was supposed to be published, Newsweek magazine, because it's a corporate media outlet and because they're spineless and because they don't quite understand the gravity of what we found, Newsweek magazine decided to kill the story. And I'm going to go into a lot more detail, not just about Newsweek magazine, but all the other outlets that killed this story at a later date, because that is a story in itself. That is a story in itself. But the story was supposed to go out on Newsweek Online last Thursday, and it was supposed to be in the magazine this week. And it is a story that we got by knocking on 450 doors we have knocked on in Flint, Michigan since the summer. And if you didn't read it, I encourage you, go check it out. It's up on Status Quo's Medium page. It's not a quick read by any means. It will take you a little bit, but it's crucial that you know what's going on and you share it and you get this out. Basically, Jen and I, through our reporting and knocking on doors, we found out that the state of Michigan, the environmental agency, sent officials to Flint residents' homes and ran their water before taking lead and copper samples, which is called flushing. They flushed the water before taking the sample, which is illegal. The EPA's lead and copper rule, which is the main drinking water regulation, says that to collect a sample, if you're taking samples that are meant for EPA regulatory compliance, the water has to be totally stagnant, meaning not used, for a minimum of 6 hours. The sample also has to be taken as a first draw, which in English just means as soon as you turn on the tap, put the sample bottle in. You don't let the water run. We found in 31 homes, now it's more, but when we went to publish this story, we found that at least 31 homes that were part of the state of Michigan's official group of homes that they continually tested since the Flint water crisis became a national scandal. They were called the Sentinel homes because it was the Sentinel testing program. And basically what that means is this was the group of homes that the state of Michigan, for whatever reason, we don't know why they chose these specific homes, chose these homes to continue testing them for 2 years to see are the levels in Flint decreasing. And these are the homes that the state of Michigan sent out press releases every so often. Flint lead levels are going down. Flint's lead levels are going down. Flint's levels are now below the EPA's regulatory level. And all the media, because they're stenographers who don't look into anything, simply regurgitated what the state of Michigan was telling them. And basically that's how Governor Snyder shut down the water pods in Flint. They shut down the water pods in April in Flint, citing this very data. So Jen and I did something very radical. You ready for it? We went, instead of going to the beach this summer, instead of spending times with her kids, Jen sacrificed time with her kids. Instead of me relaxing after back surgery, we went up and down Flint for 3 weeks. If you remember, we were kind of incognito where we were because, frankly, I was warned, be careful. Meaning, be careful for your physical safety doing this. So that's why if you ever see me go dark or me go underground or me not tell you where I am or what we're working on, it's for my safety. Because I'm not dramatizing. This line of work can be dangerous if you're going after some big fish. And we were. So we kept knocking on doors, and we found the official list. We found the official list of homes that were on this state program. The state of Michigan has hid it. They've only put the street addresses, so the street addresses. They didn't put the house numbers. We were able to track that down, and once we got those addresses for the specific house numbers, we started going up and down Flint, and we were knocking on doors, and we simply said, hey, did state officials come to your home and test your water? Residents would say yes or no. Say, do you remember how they tested? Did they turn the water on? Did they turn the water on and take the sample right away? Or did they turn the water on, let the water run for a little bit, and then take the sample? It wasn't hard, folks. All of a sudden, we start finding many, many examples of DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality officials, as well as Flint residents that were part of a program called the CORE program. And the CORE program were basically Flint residents that were hired by the state environmental agency to go around to people's homes, make sure they have water filters, help them put on their water filters if they don't know how to do it, make sure they have the proper resources. Well, both Department of Environmental Quality officials as well as these workers from the CORE program, who frankly were trained by DEQ. I don't really think it's their fault. These were Flint residents, most of them just looking for a paycheck. So I think they did what they were told to do. But the bottom line is, we found 31 homes. It was a mix of Department of Environmental Quality, the environmental agency, and these CORE workers going into residents' homes and running their water before a test, before a lead and copper test, which is illegal. Or they didn't do it themselves, but they gave instructions verbally to residents: run the water before you test. But basically, folks, we found that they cooked the data in a large number of homes. We pitched this to multiple news outlets. And without getting too into it, because we have a documentary coming out about this reporting, and all of the details about the media and trying to get this published will be in there. You live and you learn, folks. I wasted months trying to get this published in a corporate media outlet because I still had a little naivety left to think that a corporate media outlet would print this kind of truth. And in the last moment, they didn't. They didn't. And we will explain all of that. But just so you know, literally the Newsweek editor, when they decided to kill it, they said, like in politics, when you're explaining, you've lost. Literally, they told us they were too inept to explain the story, so they wouldn't publish it. It was too complicated for them to explain. Well, that was on Wednesday. Jen and I and Ty had already booked our flights and rent-a-cars and Airbnb to Flint. And we said, you know what, to hell with it. The governor's election is on Tuesday. It just passed. The Democrat Gretchen Whitmer won. So finally, Rick Snyder's leaving. He's term limited, and there will be a Democrat in office. This Democrat will have to hold her feet to the fire, says she's going to reopen free water bottle distribution in Flint. We will see if she actually does that. The talk is good right now. We'll see if she follows through. And we will hold her accountable to follow through on that promise. But we said, to hell with it, we're self-publishing it. Well, apparently, Newsweek didn't understand the story, and they're too stupid to explain it. Apparently, the majority explained it, because we posted it on Twitter. We posted the story on Twitter. It's on the top of my Twitter profile. And it started going pretty viral. I think it has like 1,100 retweets. Congressman Ro Khanna tweeted and called for an investigation immediately. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard tweeted calling for an investigation. Abdul El Sayed, who was the progressive candidate in the Democratic primary, has tweeted calling for an investigation. Not to name drop, but Susan Sarandon tweeted about it. Some others, a lot of other progressives have tweeted about it. And Jen and I are not going to, I don't want to get into it right now, but we did knock on more doors in Flint. Even after we published the story, we decided to knock on more doors to get even more evidence. And shocker, we got a whole lot of other evidence, including the fact that they were literally testing homes and putting it on the official state data sheet that they use to say Flint's levels are under EPA regulations now. They're literally testing homes with full professional filtration systems. You're not supposed to be testing for EPA regulatory compliance. Homes that have full filtration systems. Duh, you're going to get low numbers. So basically what we found is Michigan cooked the books. We're not going to get into the whole thing, but we also had a pretty important meeting before we left with some pretty important folks. And right now the story is in the hands of people that might be able to do something about it. I have reached out to Congressman Elijah Cummings' office several times. Have not heard back. Elijah Cummings was a Democrat on the House Oversight Committee who was calling for an investigation into Governor Snyder, who perjured himself in front of Congress. He has been out front on behalf of Flint. Unfortunately, I haven't heard back from his office, so I keep reaching out to see if he's going to do something about this. Jen literally has reached out to every single celebrity known to man, even D-listers, just throwing shit at a wall to see if we can get some people to speak about this and tweet about it and call for action. I mean, we have every single resident on the record. We also have every single resident on audio. So you could, all the reporting is airtight. It's there. We busted our asses for it, Jen and I. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it because we have evidence that the state of Michigan cheated on the Flint water testing to artificially lower the lead levels. As Erin Brockovich said in the story, here you go. Here's Erin Brockovich in the story. The only reason to do this would be to obtain a clear sample and report false information, she said, calling for a criminal prosecution of officials that improperly flushed water before sampling. She also demanded citywide retesting to begin and for the reopening of the free water pods the governor shuttered. Quote, falsifying a federal and state regulatory compliance test, that is a crime, she said. Brockovich also noted that in light of these falsified tests, it's not possible, as has been done by many media outlets, to claim thousands of other cities have higher water lead levels than Flint, since Flint's real water lead levels numbers are now in question. She called it cheating. Quote, flushing right before a first draw sample is a violation. The entire purpose of testing the first straw is to detect how much lead and copper have leached into the water overnight. Once it is flushed, it defeats the purpose of a test. Flushing is cheating.